problem, but it's also an opportunity for industry. So I will start with Laurent. I prepared some questions, which I sent you also to you guys, and we will try to be fast in the answers. So we have 1 hour, so we have plenty of time. But just to not to develop more, I will say 5 minutes per answer, so we can stay on time. So how imminent do you see the practical risk of quantum computer breaking today cryptographic algorithms? What is the realistic time frame for industry disruption from your point of view?
So I would say right now, everything evolves every day. So I would say 5 years ago, I would say in 30 years. Now I would say maybe in 15 years, and tomorrow in 1 year, 24 months, I would say in 5 years. In fact, time is evolving faster every day, and that's the point. And as has been mentioned before, the adaptability of IT system, whatever you name it, you put under that, it's really slow, really, really slow. And with GenAI, the path of innovation has been accelerating. The human ability to change is still the same. So if you combine all that, the threat is quite close. When? Don't know. How? Don't know. But what I know is that it's getting faster with the new technologies.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to move to David Nosibor. What do you identify as the most underestimated quantum threat today? Its key channel in signatures or long-term data confidentiality, harvest now, decrypt later?
Yeah, I would definitely say the long-term data confidentiality is the most underestimated, for the simple reason that I would say most device manufacturers don't see really what's coming. The consequences are not to be faced right now, right? They're obviously delayed, and when it comes to devices with long life cycles out there in the field for a long time that are at risk, well, ultimately you don't need quantum computing to essentially steal encrypted data. And then again, maybe it's going to take 10, 20 years until they can be decrypted, but ultimately, yeah, that's the most underestimated threat. Yeah, that's what we face right now.
And this harvest now, decrypt later, maybe can you explain to the audience what that really means?
Well, pretty much what I started to describe earlier, the fact that hackers would be stealing encrypted data, pretty much store it until they have the capability to decrypt it with the right technology. And this would be quantum computing and the ability to decrypt those files and access to very sensitive data. We're talking health records, we're talking confidential information and the likes. So that's what harvest now decrypt later is.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask you a question before I'm segregating the panel of different specializations. So just one question for all of you, fast answer. Do you believe the industry and governments are currently overreacting or underreacting or properly reacting to the quantum threats? Each of you.
I have a mixed feeling. At the industry, for the industry or industry, I would first start with the people like us. So who are in the design of quantum-proof solution. We clearly see that we are not alone to develop and to prepare post-quantum. Even though probably we are the one that has more heads and probably putting a lot of communication on it. But I've seen Infineon, one of our competitors, making also a publication about the solution, even though it was a pure software solution. So, which is, okay, sorry, I'm going to be arrogant again. No, I mean, to me, it's not really a breakthrough to make a software implementation of an algorithm, but at least, but they are moving. At the government, at the regulation level, it's a real mix. We've seen the NIST taking initiative years ago to select, to put in place a competition to select algorithm. So they are being moving. At the European level, I can see the ANSI, and more specifically at the French level, I see the ANSI. This is the equivalent of the NIST for us in France. they have published white paper, so they are communicating and putting guidelines about the introduction of post-quantum. In the reality, when we applied for the certification of our quantum chips, it took them forever to really react and process our chip, meaning that they were a bit late, not prepared to. They are probably not seeing a chip coming that fast. So they are overreacting somehow not overreacting, but they are really making industry aware that this quantum threat is coming. How they are treating it internally, and we see also in the US with you were mentioning Jean-Michel, the NIST situation with the Trump administration. They are also lacking of people to really treat the problem. So yeah, mixed feeling.
Mixed feeling. Okay, what about you, David?
Yeah, I would say that, and I would agree here with Bernard. Essentially, when we look at what's being done at the European level, we have the European Cybersecurity Certification Group that has come up with a document that's called the Agreed Cryptographic Mechanisms. That's from last month, right? And ultimately, they're laying out some post-quantum cryptographic algorithms that are, recommended for implementation, as well as some of the legacy algorithms, right? And so this was essentially agreed on by all the national certification bodies in Europe. So there's progress, right? But it remains reactive, I would say, since ultimately there's always the weight of a breakthrough for governments to react, and ultimately, and I will leave it at that for now, the Cyber Resilience Act that's set to be enforced in 2027, right? Should be addressing the PQC element with the elaboration and definition of standards, cybersecurity standards, that are going to be taking place next year, right? So we're actually waiting on that to have a proper idea of how to implement it.
Okay. Let's go to the same question. Overreacting, underreacting.
I will put a grain of salt on that. There is quite a publication that we have not seen or not realized the importance of, which was a joint statement signed by 18 EU state members, end of November, 2 pages, very sharp, very crisp, related to all regulations. So this publication that says that we should start now, that we should have migrated all organizations and governments should have migrated their PKI and their systems manipulating sensitive information by end of December 2030, which is tomorrow. And this is really strongly linked to DORA, NIS2, CRA. So if we don't do that, if we are not already, companies that are not already in their migration are exposed to these regulatory fines directly, in my point of view. It's not well understood, but it's there. So I agree, in terms of certification, etc., we are, our regulatory authorities are a bit late, but also the standards are very recent. The new ones are coming. They are not all practical for, we speak about that, constrained environment. So, yes, but on another aspect, they are pushing out the customers, the industry, to move forward. And in terms of industry, it's a very, very, you will see in the financial services, some companies are very advanced, and you can mention Banco Santander has 7 teams focused on post-quantum, on quantum safety. So 7 full teams since 5, 6, 7 years, I think. So they are full speed, and you still have some banks raising the hand now, saying, I don't know anything about it, can you educate me? So even in the financial sector, you have a range of people that are prepared or unprepared.
Thank you. Laurent?
I mean, the issue is with quantum is we cannot set a date. When there was year 2K bug, there was 2000. Everyone knew that there was a date. When COVID hit, everyone has to move to remote, digital, and stuff like this. So you could set a date and people had to move. For quantum, it's like it's fuzzy. It's coming, but when? So should I adapt? So the point is, here, how do we make a company like feel that there is a risk? So finance, but even not all finance institutions feel the risk. So it's more like, how do we move them to act without a major disruption? So it's because human moves when there's disruption, otherwise they don't like to change. So I would say there's reaction, people are moving, but it's fuzzy. Like we have to do something, we do it slowly, there's some solution we need to educate. Let's put a commission on top of the commission, let's have. So we have to make more progress in terms of there's a date, or almost where the time frame is 5 years, not 30 years. It's what we have to do right now for people to react clearly.
Very good. I'm going to ask the same question to the audience, so we get the temperature from you guys. You're all experts. So maybe you can raise your hand if you think that we are overreacting of it. So raise your hand, overreacting. Sleeping. Underreacting. Okay. Or properly reacting to the quantum threat. Okay, so it's a mixture between properly reacting and underreacting, which is normal from our industry, right? I mean, we will not say that we are overreacting. That's good, thank you guys. So, I'm going to go to the next thematic block, which is technical preparedness and standardization. So I'm going to start, and again, those questions are addressed not to all of you, but just to individually, based on your backgrounds. So to Bernard, we covered the NIST and other bodies have started the standardization post-quantum cryptography. What are the biggest technical or performance challenges industry face when migrating to this algorithm?
Jean-Marc, in your presentation, you already addressed the, I believe, the issue. I believe one of the challenge immediately we're seeing, and I can see that with our own R&D team, is the size, it's the footprint. And this is, I mean, the usual. I know nothing new in our industry. Introducing a new technology, translating at the semiconductor, at the wafer level, it's the space. How much space these new algorithms are taken in the first time the team they show me the design of the new chip and the space of the post quantum was taken on the chip. I was shocked because it was taken. I don't remember, but more than a third of our digital part was just for that. So footprint is going to be the issue. Footprint for us at the design level, at the integration level, because Jean-Michel mentioned it in terms of size, the key size where it's a change of magnitude versus what RSA was manipulating in terms of key size. So that footprint is a challenge. The other challenge, and again, no surprise, and will be, is going to be speed. It's the execution speed, and for that, okay, we are taking the challenge because we are going to be the first. Will be used as the benchmark. So it's always was taking risk, but okay, that's I believe good to be used as a benchmark. That's that's the recognition of the industry. So yeah, the speed footprints, they are immediately the first challenges that I can see for us.
Thank you, and I'm going to continue with both of you, Vasco and Laurent. Can you comment on the readiness of hardware-based security, e.g. secure element, HSM, to support post-quantum algorithms in constrained environments? If the question is you don't feel comfortable, you transfer somebody else. Okay, you start. Yeah.
I mean, I think HSM and others have been mature for many years, and they are quite in control of very small number of players. Therefore, I think easy with quotes to upgrade and so on. Look, how many HSM providers, how many kind of providers you have on this space? Very few. They can control what they sell. The more question is how you, end user enterprise use them, and in their overall business workflow. That's the question I don't have an answer on. The readiness is not my specialty, but my point is how users are using the system. It's more the question. I think Vasco could answer that. But in terms of hardware, I think there's a pretty good readiness. Especially if been working on that for many years. There are really few of them. So I say they can provide.
Yeah, indeed. HSMs are ready. Our HSMs, we manufacture HSMs with ANSI qualification renforcée, so the highest qualified, and they have the three NIST standardized algorithms since end of last year, and they are ready for that. But what my point is, yes, is in the use of them. And for example, in constraints environment, in OT and IoT, the protocols are not ready. So we can distribute, we can generate keys, we can provide them to an application, but then how are they embedded in OT protocols or IoT protocols which are not yet ready? So these networking propagation protocols need to come. The other aspect of the question is not only HSMs, it's also in constraints environments, secure elements or other elements that have low CPU and RAM, as Bernard said, there is challenges. We cannot just rely on the NIST standards. We have to check also the IETF standards, so stateful hash-based signatures like XMSS and LMS, which offer other alternatives. They are not equivalent. They are not all equivalent in terms of advantage and drawbacks. And this is another big aspect of this transition, is how we don't. And this is, let me be clear, this is not a transition to a post-quantum crypto algorithm. This is a transition to crypto agility. This is a transition to, we should not, our industry and all industry have relied on one family of mathematical problems for too long. RSA is 1977, Diffie-Hellman 1976, and we rely on that still, and only that, only discrete logarithm and factorization, which are both broken by the same algorithm, because it's about periodic functions. So we should have already done that. We should have already been able to use hash-based signatures and RSA in parallel, or switch from one to the other, but we are not in that situation. So now we should do that. And the other point about that is that it will allow us to choose the best possible algorithm according to the situation. Is it for example, Falcon, FMDSA, in constrained environments will be very useful when we need to just verify, not sign, just verify. Because low signature sizes, very low signature sizes, very speedy in terms of verification. So this is useful. And stateful hash-based signatures, also when you don't need to reuse the algorithm and the key, and you can maintain the state of the signature, of the key. They are very useful because they are known for a long time, so they are very secure, contrary to Dilithium or to the lattice-based that are more recent. So we need to play with all that, and in constrained environment, even more than in normal IT, where you have more CPU and RAM, and where DSA, we compare, I don't know if you have the same benchmarks in your labs, but we compare like to like in terms of security level, key generation, signature and verification between Dilithium, DSA, MLDSA, and RSA, and MLDSA is, when you have enough CPU and RAM, it's faster from orders of magnitude. It's slower than elliptic curves, but it's faster than RSA. So you don't have the same problematics according to the environment, and that's why we need to play with all the available algorithms, not only the NIST standardized, but the XMSS, LMS. The ISO is working on standardizing Frodochem, I think, or it's classic matrix, one of them. So other standards are coming, and by the way, we mentioned that the NIST published, they also, yes, they standardized 3 of them. We are waiting for FMDSA for Falcon. We don't have the draft yet. And they selected, it was last month, the 15th of March, at least 2 months now, they selected a second key encapsulation, HQC, on top of MLChem. So we have to play with all that.
I'm going to go to David. What role should interoperability testing and certification play in accelerating the adoption of post-quantum technology across critical sectors?
Well, I think that the role to be played by those entities is essentially paramount. I mean, when it comes to not only the testing and certification side, but also, truth be told, the consulting side, right? How to advise device manufacturers, even component suppliers, to adopt this crypto agility, and essentially, being preparing for certification and ensuring that the whole certification process could be passed with high-flying colors, right? So I would say a paramount role, and it's going to take a lot of education, a lot of our awareness, because I think we're essentially, part of a crowd that's quite familiar with the topic. But imagine the thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of people out there not being, knowledgeable about what we're talking about, and by those guys I'm mentioning, I'm talking device manufacturers, component suppliers. A lot of education needs to happen. So I would say the sides and beyond the testing and certification side, the advisory side is going to be very crucial.
I'm going to stay with you due to your regulatory background. So how do you see the role of national security agencies, supranational organizations like European Union, the UN, NATO, in defining mandatory timelines or compliance framework for post-quantum migration?
Well, I think they're going to play a very important and key role in defining those timelines. As far as the European Union is concerned, especially with the CRA coming to force in 2027, we're expecting a PQC transition roadmap to occur and be published by next year. But ultimately, just taking a step back, I would say we're talking about potential, national security interests at risk, right? So it seems quite logical that the highest authorities should be involved in that work and ensuring that adoption is essentially mandated and made compulsory and mandatory, in the view of all those risks.
Thank you very much. Vasco, I'm going to get back to you. What should policymakers prioritize? Raising awareness, mandating cryptographic migration, funding R&D. How can regulatory accelerate, not hinder preparedness?
They should prioritize all of that. But in reality, well, as I said, the regulation is there. And by the way, in February, I think Europol published did a publication. It's a call for action for the financial sector. It's lessons for everybody. And by the way, we all need finance. So if we want to do transactions with our banks, we better follow up on what they do. So they say in Europe, there is no need for new regulations. As I said, they draw this line like I did between DORA, NIS2 for non-financial services, and other regulations, which take this risk-based approach, all mandatory risk-based approach. They all mention the strengths or best practices or state-of-the-art in terms of cryptography, and or the need for protecting data at rest and in transit at least, and DORA says even at use, in use. And they all take a new light because when, at least in France, and I'm sure in Germany also, and in Netherlands, I'm not sure for the other member states, state-of-the-art cryptography is mandated by the cyber agencies, ANSI, BSI, and NSA. And when they publish and they sign a document in November saying you should transition by that date, you should prioritize now, and you should take quantum threat in every cybersecurity risk assessment, you should evaluate the quantum threat. If you don't do that, you are not regulatory compliant. So you don't need regulation. So they did it. For me, they checked the box. They just need to be more clear. So raise awareness on that. Also explain. They are coming, as David said, with a publication. And I think it's very late, but mid next year, they said, with a clear roadmap on the transition. Before mid this year, they will come with a publication on hybridation, which I hope will give primary choices for the customer. There is hybridation we need to go through hybridation, but there is no clarity. For example, in certificates, you have at least 5-6 formats: composite, catalyst, chameleon, and derivatives of these formats. And customers are lost. They say, which one do we use? We can explain the advantage of robots, but they say, yeah, but my partner, they will use what? But if European Union says, okay, you can use, because in reality, use the best one according to the situation. Yeah. But customers are lost. They don't have the skills. So you say, use this one, is a primary one, so let's say composite, or I will not make the code one, composite or catalyst. And then use this one, so everybody use this one, and then on case-by-case basis, you can use an alternate. Like the NIST did when they published, when they chose their algorithm and they standardized them, they say MLChem, MLDSI, they say are the primary algorithms. The other are for niche use cases. So it's clear. So we need this clarity, so raising awareness. The funding is very important, and I think it's going on, it's accelerating. There was already a PQC funded project. In 2025, Horizon Europe Cluster 3 Cyber, half of the calls are PQC. So you look for them because they open end of June to be for a deadline the 12th of November, and three of the 6 calls on cyber are PQC. And they will be driven by the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, which is new. So we have cyber people running that in Europe. And there is some on the security or implementation, some on the cryptanalysis, and another one on the protocols. So funding is not enough, but starts, it's growing up. Regulation is here. I think it's the awareness, communicating clear choices, giving guidance to the market is what is missing now.
Thank you very much. We have 15 minutes, so we're going to move to the thematic block 4, which is implementation strategies. I'm going to start with you, Laurent. So how can organizations manage the transition without disrupting existing operations or creating new vulnerabilities during the hybrid cryptographic phase?
Again, like I mentioned, the problem is that enterprises see a lot of hype, a lot of providers, like you say, a lot of norms. It's even worse than before, like so many norms. I mean, the issue is humans are limited in the way they can decide. I mean, look at an organization. Look, let's say Airbus. Their main problem right now is supplying enough planes to the airlines. And then you say you have a cyber threat to your operation because there's a new post-quantum. Okay, so I have a small team looking at it, which is not core to our business. I mean, sorry, I don't have a solution to that problem, but it's more like how can we remove the hype, simplify, and educate, but simplification. Now you have multiple providers that says you need to have this norm, this norm, this norm, this protocol, and so on for this part of. But an organization is a multi-cells living. It's like human bodies. It's a miracle that we function. Frankly, if you look at the human bodies, there's so many functions organizations are the same. And you mentioned communication, encryptions, devices, humans, GenAI, which is in the mix now. I would say we need to educate the students, the engineers that are going to work in these companies earlier on, so they are aware of all of that. Because today you cannot really reverse engineering a very complex organization, and I'm not talking about the small enterprises. It's even worse. There are no IT. I mean, even setting up an IT system is difficult for them. So imagine now, okay, you are selling this, you are small company, you are afraid of post-quantum cryptography, quantum computers. What the heck is it? I mean, is it a cat? Is it a Schrödinger cat? Is it a dead cat? I mean, look at, if you step back, it's becoming so complex that most of us are not able to think through all the aspects of an IT system. And I think education, very early on, in business schools, engineering schools, universities, whatever, polytechnical schools have to be strengthened the fact that, because these people will face the quantum threat. Not the people, most of the older IT guys are going to retire before the quantum is there, so it's not their problem. But the guys that are right now business and are going to face it. And if we don't prepare them, this is not going to be, it's going to be a very difficult adaptation. So I would say, let's start early, prepare the generation that is going to be working in IC system, in business workflows and so on. So at least they are aware when they join that something has to be done. I don't say it's too late for the people already working, not like that. But basically, it's going to be far more difficult when you have to deal with how many planes I'm going to deliver today, and say, hey, there's a quantum computer coming. No, I have a 1,000 order to fulfill for Emirates. That's my problem, not the quantum hype. So we need to prepare the next generation of engineers, business people, to be aware of that now. Education, it's key.
Thank you very much. So I have a final question for all of you, which is related to the implementation of the strategy, and is what recommendations do you have for SMEs, public institutions with limited resources to start their quantum readiness journey? And if you could provide a single action point to policymakers or CEOs that they are watching us online now, that will be what exactly? So SMEs, and what is your recommendation?
Like what happened with the, if you remember, the 2000 Millennium Passage, it was, yeah, there was a lot of fantasy at the time and a lot of probably of overreaction, but it went well. This passage to 2000 was easy because precisely the company has taken that extremely seriously and they were prepared. So I believe that exactly the same thing happened here, and the first recommendation would be to the CEO would be, do you have a post-quantum team or post-quantum program and do you have a risk assessment for your business of risk assessment vis-a-vis the quantum threats, and be prepared because the difference with the 2000 issue was we knew the date, right? We knew the date, we knew the second. Here with the quantum computer, we don't even know the date, but the sooner the better.
Thank you.
Well, I would say, as a device manufacturer, you should come up with an inventory of all the crypto assets you're using in your products. I would say it starts there, right? Like, what are the potentially legacy algorithms, implemented in my products? And then start from there, right? Ultimately identify after that the long-lived or products in the field that have been there in a long time, and looking at whether you can potentially update those on the firmware side or other matters. But ultimately, it starts with an inventory of what you have out there. I would say that's the first step.
There is a second difference with the bug of the 2000. Is that we are not in the same world in terms of digital. In 2000, it was maybe, except maybe banks and insurance, the rest was intranet, 2 websites, etc. Now it's all business, is digital business, so everything. And we know that business relies on trust, and it's a mathematical, digital business relies on digital trust. And without the trust on encryption, without the trust that it's reliable, there is no business. I will add to the excellent points made. For the SMEs and public institutions that have limited resources, their doom is also their luck. They don't have a lot of internal IT. They rely on vendors, software and hardware vendors. So procurement. Right now, push, stress all your providers. When will you provide me an hardware or a software or both that is quantum compliant? Will you give me crypto agility? Will I be able to switch? How will I do that without going through a nightmare? If tomorrow the lithium is broken, do I have to work 2 months to modify it, or is it just a click? The answer will always be in the middle. And so push your providers, ask them for their date, and also the requirements. So your software will be quantum ready there, and you need that kind of CPU, RAM, you need that kind of framework, you need me to be in OpenSSL 3.50, etc. And migrate all your HTTP-based applications or communications to TLS 1.3 now, because it's a prerequisite. It will not be PQC ready if you are not already in TLS 1.3. So all legacy SSL, TLS versions, you should already be integrating them to at least 1.3 so you're ready.
I think we need to go a step back. What are we trying to protect? What is the data we need to protect? Most of the data is very short-lived, and it's stored by someone, by someone. So we have to have this onion strategy. Most of the data don't need really to protect, but we have to be aware of this data I don't need to protect. But there's a core of data that needs to be protected, and most of the people don't understand which one should be protected. So we want to use heavy systems to protect that. I just bought a coffee at the coffee machine. Do I need a post-quantum cryptography because of China? Sorry. Any other foreigner quantities will know that I like coffee 7 times a day. I mean, at some point we have to elevate ourselves to understand what is really key to protect. But no, definitely, no, that's another kind that I become a product for a third-party company. That's another problem. But yeah, that's an example. We didn't even understand what is the problem overall in terms of data protection. So at the end of the day, do I want to protect my healthcare records? So this is key for me. And I really hope that, for friends or whatever system, do really have a post-quantum, because I hope I will outlive the quantum, so I will be still alive when the quantum computer will come. So I don't want it to decrypt my last blood test. You see what I mean? Is that as a company, small, big institution, you need to know what you have to protect. That's the key. And then, for that, which is maybe 10%, you have to use this heavy post-quantum cryptography and you have to be aware of it. But for the rest, don't spend your time on that information which is anyway useless 2 days after it's used. So we all say about transactions, financial transactions. 90% of the financial transaction happens once, okay? But everybody knows about it. You use Google Wallet, you use Facebook, whatever, Apple Pay. They know it. That's done. Don't need to protect it. Everyone is aware of this data transaction happening. Crypto, you don't care if someone steals, because it's by definition already sold to third-party vendors. Already. Just after you did the transaction, everybody knows about it. You have to be aware. But when you do I'm insisting on healthcare, but there's many examples. When you do a healthcare transaction, you go to a lab to get tested, you don't want anyone to know about it for the rest of your life. Period. And that starts to be protected. That's just one example. So you need to be if you go to a biological testing facilities, you want to make sure they have all this in place. There should be a certificate in front of the door. So you have the sanitary, all the healthcare standards. I need to know that you protect my information to the highest level available to you, and that you have to be aware. That's what I want. And that's really important.
Yeah, Vasco, quick, please, so we go.
Very quickly, yes, very important what Laurent said in terms of prioritization, but careful. I want to add one thing. We are focusing, because for prioritization, confidentiality is most important, the data on long term, but we should not forget signature, we should not forget authenticity, integrity. We have a bit more time, but all non-human identities are authenticated only by cryptography, asymmetric cryptography, and this is, today, it's 85 non-human identities in a standard organization for one human entity. Applications, objects, machines, transactions, SSO, everything. So all that is very important. So for example, for the coffee machine, I don't want, when I pay a €2 coffee, it's expensive, €2 coffee, I don't want the transaction to be modified on the fly to €2,000. So I don't want to protect my data, I want to protect the integrity of my transaction, etc. So all that is very important, but yes, no, in terms of priority, you put the things right.
Thank you very much. So questions from the audience to our experts here? Yeah, Loïc, please.
So Loïc Ramon from SEALSQ. So Vasco, you mentioned about the banking verticals, so the banking segment where there is companies that are really, I would say, prepared, others that are not prepared. do you see some verticals where they are all prepared? And side question is, which vertical do you think will be the target for attacks for a quantum computer?
I don't think I don't think there is anyone that is all prepared. I mean, or what does it mean prepared? Because nobody has done the migration yet. But yes, I see a very big change in the last 2 months. I never saw such a change in the perception of the C-level, IT, maybe not yet C-level, except when it's an IT company. 6 months ago, you were just educating people. I think this CIO, etc., were looking at you, and as you said, the images, even you're speaking about the cat that is dead and alive, etc., what, science fiction, but I have other things to do. Now, since 2 months, what I get from the customers is, I know I'm late, I know I'm unprepared, I know it's big, I know it's coming, I know I should do something, what should I do? Can you come educate my teams? Can you come tell us what it is and how to be prepared? So it's not exactly an answer to your question, but it's more the wave is accelerating, and it's one advice also that we could have highlighted in the advice to the SMEs, etc., is make sure that your C-level has understood that it's not only a cryptography problem. I mean, the C on PQC is misleading because the C-level says, okay, it's cryptography, the cryptographer, we have probably a guy that's a cryptographer, he will do that. No, it's all your business team that should be on top of it because it's your business resilience that will depend on that. So you have this task force that you have to establish, should be sponsored at the highest level and include all the business application teams. And this is coming.
Thank you very much. We are on time, and I think this summarizes very well the discussions where I think quantum readiness is going to be something that is going to be compulsory now in many organizations. We are a listed company on the Nasdaq, and now we are being requested to provide or quantum readiness strategy, not only at the technology level, as you say, at the corporate level, because this will be a discussion that you should have at the board. The chief security officer should report to the board, as we do internally in SEALSQ, when Pascal every 2-3 months arrives to the board and in a totally independent way defines where's our cybersecurity assessment. So this is a good opportunity also to make a business out of that, because this is going to be required, and big organizations. I gave a keynote speaking at the Ernst & Young Summit in Geneva on AI and quantum, and these organizations are actually willing to work with us to provide that kind of quantum readiness services to SMEs and big corporations. So big applause to the audience.
There will be a lunch served downstairs, so everyone can just get ready and enjoy the lunch and networking opportunities.